welcome back to my channel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, commented, and liked my videos. I absolutely appreciate your love and support. It definitely motivates me to continue making videos, and this is something I really enjoy, so thank you. One of the many perks of spending all day with my children is watching them interact and seeing how they are working together and building a friendship and actually enjoying each other's company. Recently, I was watching them play a game, and I just remembered being really worried about transitioning from one child to two children and thinking how difficult it's going to be when I was pregnant, especially as the pregnancy was further along and progressing and I was closer to my due date. All of these worries were coming up for me and I was getting really concerned. I decided to make this video about my experience transitioning from one kid to two kids and offer some tips to somebody who might be thinking about having a second child or someone muddling through that early stages of transitioning from one to two kids. That just made me think about Vampire Diaries. So side note, I'm currently watching Vampire Diaries and all of that transitioning just sounded like the early stages of transitioning into a vampire. Although I don't know if that's appropriate. But anyway, let's get back to the video. Let's start with the not so warm and fuzzy parts that worried me about transitioning from one kid to two kids. So one of the major things that worried me was splitting my time between the kids. So I was really worried about being back in the infant stage, and because with Mahad I did not sleep much and I was constantly awake and I just felt like a zombie. I was afraid it was going to be the same thing with Warsan. I was concerned about having to take time away from Mahad, who still needs my attention and my love and energy, and having to put it all in the baby. Because the baby needs me more at that time. And so I was really concerned. I was thinking, you know, he's gonna remember this, he's gonna recognize that you don't have time for him, and you know, essentially he's just gonna hate me. Basically, that was the fear. It was something that was very difficult to overcome for me. I was also afraid of how chaotic our life was gonna get. We were gonna go from one kid, and we had just barely started getting used to managing having one child, and now we're gonna go to two children under two, and we were getting ready for the terrible twos, lots of twos, but we were getting ready for the terrible twos on Mahad's end, and now we're adding an infant, and the whole thing just seemed like it was gonna be some kind of crazy chaos. And to add to that, we were gonna need to buy more stuff, and so we are in a small apartment, and I'm thinking we had already bought all these toys from Mahad. Everything is gonna be, you know, twice as much now. We're gonna have a girl, so there's gonna be a lot of different toys, there's gonna be a lot of diapers, there's gonna be all of the infant stage related stuff, the strollers, the car seats, and everything was gonna just take up too much space. And just thinking of how we're gonna divide our time for the kids, make sure the house is clean, the cooking, and taking care of our personal needs. And this was the worst part, thinking about how I'm gonna take care of my personal needs. The moment you think about when am I gonna make time for myself, the moment the guilt, that mom guilt, just washes over you. I'm sure this is a dad guilt too, but definitely just feeling guilty about thinking about, you know, how I may not have time for myself, or how am I gonna make time for myself and do things I want to do or like to do, and feeling guilty about thinking that thought, guilt upon guilt, and just finding it very difficult to get out of that stage. And another serious worry was how it's going to impact our relationship, my husband and I's relationship. We definitely needed to put more effort in making time for each other after Mahad, and since the pregnancy happened so quickly with Warsan, I was thinking we're never going to have time for each other. We are literally just going to be in an infant stage forever, you know, like freaking out. And you know, at that point when I'm getting all worked up, and I'm sure my hormones are exaggerating all of these fears for me, but this is a decision that we made, and a new baby is absolutely what we wanted. And so the fears, while legitimate, I needed to be able to overcome. So let me get into the positives and the benefits of going from one child to two children. Of course, your eldest child has a sibling, has a companion, a friend, someone they can play with, which then means that you as a parent are free a little more free to not be the sole entertainer, which is amazing. I absolutely appreciate that. Even at a young age, Mahad was playing with Warsan, you know, giving her his little toys and all of that stuff. So I felt like, hey, we got each other. Both of them seem to learn a lot quicker, especially the younger child, but both Mahad and Warsan seem to learn a lot quicker in their interactions with one another than when Mahad was on his own. And so she absolutely picks up way more from him, and it's basically what we teach, a little bit of what we teach, most of it from him, just by default, trying everything he does, doing everything he does. And so I think that has made it easy for me to kind of let go a little bit and not be so neurotic about every little thing that she's learning, and I wasn't trying too hard to make sure everything was perfect. And so she had more opportunity to just learn from him and everything he did. So that is definitely a benefit. And the eldest gains a sense of responsibility. You have to teach him how not to get too rough with the baby, how to hold the baby gently, how to hold the head. And while he was still very young at this age, every time we let him sit next to us or put the baby on his lap, it gave him a sense of responsibility. And then he made sure to ask us when something he was gonna do with the baby was either too rough or not. So he'll say, "Is this okay to do with baby Warsan?" And we say yes or no. And he didn't have all of his words at that time, but he did definitely question it. And as he grew up and as she grew up, that responsibility became very, very clear. You're definitely better prepared for the pregnancy in terms of what to buy, things that your family might need, and all of the things that were comfortable to you. There might be things that you really, really wanted when you had your first child and you thought was going to be great, but it turns out you didn't use it or didn't like it. This time around, you know not to buy it, or you know what you actually needed that you may not have purchased the first time. And you also know, while the pregnancies are different, you kind of have some understanding of what to expect with what your body's going through, and kind of a better sense of, at least for me, it was a better sense of knowing, how I felt. There was a lot of times with Mahad I thought, definitely about to give birth, today's the day. It was not the day. With Warsan, I was way more chill, and I was able to go with the flow. It was a lot more in tune. I was a lot more in tune with my body. With Mahad, right before I gave birth, it was very difficult to get him to share, because he at home was an only child, and then when he went out with his cousins or played out in the play areas, he just did not like sharing. But when Warsan came, and a few months after, of course, after he was about 2.5 and she started moving around and reaching for toys, it was a lot easier to teach him to share, or it became a lot easier because there's a sample at home that he has to share. And also for Warsan, it's a non-issue because she knows she needs to share. The person she needs to share with has been there her entire life. And so that was definitely a perk. I think we noticed that too. We definitely noticed it as it was happening. So that was amazing. Other thing is, you do not need to stock up like a hibernating bear for the second child. You have everything you need, essentially. Everything can be reused. The best advice I got was not to throw away all of the baby stuff when my son grew out of them, because yes, we knew we were gonna have more children in the future, but we didn't know how far into the future we'd be able to get pregnant. But my older sister was like, don't throw anything away, you'll probably reuse it. And so we didn't throw a lot of it away, and it turns out it was absolutely useful. We used the same little onesies and all of those things for Warsan, and it doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl. It depends on you, of course, but I'm just saying you can reuse a lot of what you already have for the second child. The toys, of course, there's no need to buy more toys. That was one of my biggest fears, but no, there's no need to buy more toys. Toys are toys. They will use them the same way. The kids were fairly close in age, so the toy gap wasn't going to be that far behind each other. And so we kept a lot of the toys, kept a lot of the clothes, and we just bought what we needed for her specifically, the diapers and all of that, of course. But it was not as chaotic as I had imagined it to be, and it was a lot smoother, the transition, than it was in my head initially when I was pregnant. While some of the things did happen, I did have to stay up very late nights and not sleeping a lot those first 3 months, and thankfully Mahad was sleeping really well at that time. And so even when I was up with the baby, Mahad was not waking up in the middle of the night. He is not a kid that wakes up in the middle of the night too much, alhamdulillah. So that made it a lot easier to just take care of the baby and focus on the baby at night, and then put her back to sleep and be able to get some sleep myself. Also, the thing that helped was I was not working in those first 3 months of her life. And last but not least, your eldest child will become your little helper. Mahad loved helping me. He would get toys for her, he would get me some of her clothes and whatever we needed. He was, you know, really excited to go fetch it for us. And so it helped me understand that he doesn't hate the process and in turn hate me. Like, he was fine. He loved his little sister. He wasn't as jealous or traumatized as I thought he would be. This is all just to say that that difficult period is very short in comparison to all the benefits in the long term. It is a very, very short period of time, and it may be difficult, of course, and it most likely is difficult for everybody, but it is not gonna last. And when that time passes, then you'll be standing watching them play a game of hide and seek, just amazed at how they work together and proud that you raised them to be this big, happy and healthy. Oh, and one more thing. So I heard, not sure if it's true, but I really want it to be true. I'm gonna believe it. Say I believe it. I heard that when you go from 1 kid to 2 kids, it's the most difficult transition. But after that, if you're going to 3 or 4 or 5 or however many, it is not such a difficult thing. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, peace.